Hello, I'm Lisa Harrison, and today I'm speaking with Dannion Brinkley, who has the somewhat rare honour of having had several near death experiences, and he's still here to talk about it. So, welcome, Dannion.
Yes, thank you, Lisa. It's a sincere and absolute pleasure to be with you this day.
And for me too, it's a real pleasure to speak with you. I'm very curious to hear about what you've experienced and how it's changed you personally and your worldview. Now, they say that lightning doesn't strike in the same place twice, but you're clearly the exception to that rule. The first time was in 1975, I believe,
Right?
talking on the telephone.
And then in 1998, talking on the telephone. Two different houses, two different bedrooms, 3 years apart. It just goes to show you that I did not get it the first time. So they said, I think we need to kill him again.
Well, before we get into what you didn't get, I just wanted to go back to prior to that first experience because I watched the telemovie Saved by the Light, which was based on the book that you wrote after your experience. And the Dannion Brinkley that it portrayed prior to that experience, if you don't mind me saying so, wasn't a nice guy.
A
Is that
jerk.
how accurate was he? Was that portrayal of you?
It was it was lightweight compared to the real Daniel. If you take that person that you saw in Eric Roberts and you multiplied it times 500,
Oh, really?
you would have definitely found the true Daniel. I grew up a tough guy, a little kid, but I grew into a big man. I am 6'4", 240 pounds. And I always realized that you had got people to pay more attention to you if you hit the first one in the face. It showed that it had a tendency to make everyone else pay attention to while blood went everywhere from hitting the first one. Then I played sports, which more gratification coming from hurting people. And then I was in the United States Marine Corps, and that goes without saying what kind of personality type that evolved. And when I joined the Marine Corps, I thought I had found my life's work, destroying things in the name of nationalism and national security. But what a fool, Lisa, I was.
So you've taken lives in your capacity in the military?
Yes.
Was that the hardest thing to reconcile?
No. Some of that was, no question. But I'll tell you the very hardest thing that it was for me to reconcile. And I'll reduce it down to a simple component. I had in the life review, which is a part of the near-death experience, in my first life review, I was in a hurry to get to a party. And this dog ran out in front of me. And I hit the dog. And since I was late trying to get to that party, I saw the dog make it to the side of the road, what appeared to have broken legs. I knew to stop, and I didn't. And I went on to the party and had a great time. And when I came back after the party, I stopped to see where I had hit the dog. And I realized that the dog had lived a lot longer than I thought it would have. And I think that that had a devastating effect on me. When you're in combat, it's either them or you. And there is not a lot of intentional perspective about it except your belief in what you're doing and your safety and the protection of those people who are around you that are your teammates or that are you in the same operation with you. I don't think that that was held against myself. I don't think I held that against myself as much as things that I did, like not paying attention to going to check on that dog, and the things that I did, Lisa, that were just about brute force and just about dominant arrogance and ego, because I was capable of doing it. And then also it was a way that I thought I would get respect and admiration. But when you have a near-death experience, and remember when I was struck by lightning, I was dead for 28 minutes, completely paralyzed for 6 days, partially paralyzed for 7 months, and it took 2 years to learn to walk and feed myself. So I had a lot of time to reflect, review, and pay attention to what this thing now known as the near-death experience really does to verify the fact that, number one, we don't die, and number two, we face ourselves.
So any judgment in once we leave here, it all comes from us. There is no external source of judgment.
No, we are the source of judgment. And I can tell you what happens. You will see your entire life pass before you in a 360-degree panorama. If you think you're a know-it-all now, wait till you're dead. You will see that you are an absolute know-it-all. You will know how many hairs was in the nose of the doctor who pulled you from your mother. You will see everything. You'll know what the labels were, everybody's name. Then you'll watch yourself, Lisa, from a second-person point of view, as though you were your own best friend, looking at the choices that you make. And you don't make any bad choices. You just sometimes don't make as good a choice, which sets up systematic repercussion, both good and bad. But you get a chance to see it. But from that second-person point of view, it's you watching you, but in a higher state of spiritual consciousness. And then you literally will become every person you ever encounter. And you will feel the direct results of your interaction between you and those persons. You become them. And what that teaches you is not only are you doing it to yourself, more than any other point, you're not really doing it to them. And then the most important part about this is the system of judgment. And I use two terms, the divine or God, whichever one people choose. But the test of you looking at your life pass before you, looking at it from a second-person point of view, looking at when you become everyone you've ever encountered. What happens is this. If the divine could not come today, or if God could not come today as you see and define God and the divine, not anyone else, what difference did the divine make in the life you just lived? That teaches you two very important things, Lisa. Number one, it's not what you do that really matters on this earth. It's why you do it. It is your intention in your actions, because when I watched my life review, some of the most horrendous things that I did, the intention was to save and protect my companions and my fellow soldiers, my fellow Marines to be exact. And so my actions and intentions were automated, as opposed to simply being a bully, simply without a reason to intimidate or threaten or harm someone. Because those intentions, you bear those burdens. You bear them. And you feel that repercussion. The second thing that it teaches you is that you choose to come to this earth to be a co-creator. If the divine could not come today and it had sent you, in the life you just reviewed, what difference did the divine make? Not what difference that you made as the individual, ego-driven, psychological, human personality, but your representation is if you were the divine reaction on the earth. That was a pretty cosmic revelation for a southern hillbilly. You know, a guy who comes from the deep south that thinks he's tough, that grows up in a religious ideology called fundamentalism, where everybody goes to hell. Where I come from, you know, it's like a standard thing in the South. We all go to hell here in America in the South. But it was a pretty remarkable and pretty revelatory perspective that I had chosen to come to, that I had chosen. You choose to come and are chosen to come. End of story. You're chosen to come because there is absolutely no one greater than you to be born at the exact moment, at the exact place, in the exact circumstances that you were born. And because there is no one better than you to fulfill the position of what the divine feels and believes is the unfoldment not only of your neighborhood and of your home, or of your province, or of your country, or of your nation, but of the whole universe. You ever realize, Lisa, what it's like to sit back and know, not think it, not rationalize it, but to realize that the actions and intentions that I take today affect beings in multiple dimensions and in other planets all over the universe. And that's every one of us.
That's a mind-boggling thought. You could
Yeah.
paralyze you into doing nothing.
Well, what it does is it makes you respectful and confident. What it did for me was, like you said, I didn't have to think about being paralyzed. I was. And I think that the paralysis became to be a motivator. You know, I see so much divine action in the things that go on around me because I have that perspective of going through 3 of these events over 22 years. And I always laugh about my relationship to the divine because all the angels are down at the cloud bar. They're watching me on the earth get moody in opinion, and they said, you know, we're going to have to kill Daniel again. He just doesn't get it. So it just shows you that I'm hard-headed, but every time I go over there, I become more appreciative of free will and more tolerant of people's actions and ideals as they are growing themselves. And remember, struck by lightning twice. I didn't have a near-death experience during the second lightning strike. It just slammed me against the wall, knocked the window. I hit the window and knocked the whole frame into the yard. I was paralyzed. I was unconscious for 45 minutes, and it took me about 3 weeks to get my balance back. But then that led to open heart surgery, which was pretty terrible. That was 13 years after the lightning strike. And then 7 years after that, I had to have brain surgery. And they were going to have to do brain surgery and open heart surgery at the same time. And they gave me less than a 10% survival. And they decided because my brain was bleeding so bad that the blood was brushing out because of the blown subdural hematomas, that it was rushing out, that it was crushing my brain, and the pain was so enormous that I would either have brain damage or more brain damage than I have now. And so they had to figure out something to do. They did brain surgery. I spent 41 hours in the recovery room. And when I came out of recovery, I had a massive grand mal seizure, went into cardiac arrest, and was put in the neurocardiac ward on life support. But I stayed there 41 days. Every time I make this journey, I begin to appreciate the courage that a spiritual being enters what we call humanity, the metaphysical being. Everybody should take great comfort in that they were courageous enough to put on this water bag that we call a body. You know, your body is basically water. It's like a big water bag. And if you think about it, it's just basically a water treatment plant. You put foodstuffs in and water in it. It extracts the minerals and stuff from it, and then it puts the water out in 2 or 3 different ways. But nonetheless, you're basically a water bag. And to put this on and to block out the supreme divinity of your consciousness and who you are and your source so that you can accomplish a spiritual mission that affects the whole universe. As arrogant as I am, and even more arrogant as I was, that's a pretty amazing attempt when someone comes here. But we've always been taught that somehow we are unworthy. You know, religion says we were born in sin because of what some people were doing in the desert 6,000 years ago. I just never did buy that. You know, how could I be guilty of what somebody was doing in the desert 6,000 years ago? That's nuts. But, you know, people say that, but we always are taught that we are less than who we are. We have to really understand we're greater than we can possibly imagine.
So many questions have come up from what you've said already. The initial 28 minutes of being dead after that first lightning strike, your recall of what you experienced in that time is very detailed and quite elaborate. Did it feel like 28 minutes or did it feel like days?
It felt like 25 years.
Wow.
It felt like 25 years. But what people have to understand is the time-space differentium shifts instantly the moment you lift from your body. And the fact that you are completely disconnected from the physical formed dimensional reality that you came from, that you're pretty startled and amazed in the fact that you ever participated in all that madness anyway. People don't understand when you let go of this, the psychology that is the social structure of Danyan as a personality and an ego, the moment that you let go that last breath, that is insignificant as a perspective. You return to a certain power that's yours as a spiritual being, and you hold yourself in grace and integrity, and you look at the things that are going on as though you were watching a big screen high definition television, but you were an observer, not a participant. I mean, that's the thing that I try to teach people. Hey, everybody, you took this on because it was so important in a spiritual mission and because you had a chance to create crisis, not victories. You know, I tell people, you want to know how your world got so screwed up? Well, you did it. And I'll tell you why. Great, powerful, and mighty spiritual beings, Lisa, with dignity, direction, and purpose, which is unequivocally who everybody is. The worst part about being great, powerful, and mighty is that you have a tendency to believe that there's nothing that you can get into that you can't figure out a way to get out of. And so we create these things and we allow the world, like the one we're living in now, is collapsing. And you realize that we allowed it to happen. Why? Because we weren't at the helm? No. Because we must birth a new world. This one has failed. The economy, religions, institutions, banking, the financial system, credit, all the fractal banking, all of this has collapsed so that we have the opportunity to create a new one.
But does that mean that the current experiment failed from a higher perspective? Or was it just... I mean, to say it failed means that as these great, powerful spiritual beings, doesn't that mean we made a mistake?
No. It's cyclic. You know, you have to remember the repetition of divinity and the cycles and how we maneuver through these cycles with our personal internal belief system in success is part of the training. I've watched this from the point of understanding how governments operate, and when I watch it, I see some of the things we allowed to happen because it was about our safety and our identity and our ease of life that we wanted. But these are cycles. You know, we're in the next of the Mayan calendar. We're in the next 51 years to December the 21st. It really started October the 28th. I think it was some Frenchman in the late 1700s who came up with the concept of the December the 21st, 2012 is the end of the world. And then it just kept evolving and evolving till like everybody has to have something to be afraid of. I'm sure economics are going to get a little weird. I'm sure solar flares and plasma bursts are going to get a little stranger, and I'm sure that anything that the present day structure is going to try to intimidate and frighten us even more about these issues. But I can promise you this: they will fail. We will win. Science and spirituality are merging because we've entered this concept called quantum. And we see beliefs now that we always thought were mysticism, was mysticism and folklore. Like, take this one. The mystical parts of our life says that we're all one and that we're all connected. We have heard that from the Hindus and the Buddhists and cultures from all over the world. Well, that seemed crazy because you're there and I'm here. But we discovered a quantum mechanical material that we call dark matter. And in Switzerland, they have the CERN collider where they're bombarding protons, electrons, and charged neutrons because they're hunting what's called the Higgs boson particle, the God particle, because it would be the source of dark matter. We can detect it briefly, but we can't replicate it on a continuous basis or understand neutrino and electron charged particles that create it. But we know it's there because the universe is suspended in it. That simple theory says we're all connected. That is replicable, proven science. So one of the great folklore, and one of the great cosmic perspectives of ancients, that we're all one, is now scientifically replicable and proved and true. So I'm really happy I'm a part of you, Lisa.
There's an old yogi saying that I heard many years ago that says when science finally reaches the peak of knowledge, when it finally climbs that mountaintop and gets there, it will find a yogi sitting on top saying, "Glad you could join me." And that's exactly where we're at.
It's true. Look at what we're doing. We're beginning to realize aspects of physiological comprehension that are now mind-boggling. I mean, it's mind-boggling.
It is.
And it's joyous. Look at this one. We look at the population of the United States. It's 311 million people. So let's say that we're all made up of atoms, molecules, and cells. So let's take all the empty space out of an atom. An atom is 94.6% empty space. Okay? Then let's take all the empty space out of a molecule. That's 92% empty space. Now let's take all the empty space out of a cell. That's 92% empty space. So if we took all the empty space out of every atom, molecule, and cell in the human population, the 311 million people who live in the United States, they would all fit in a matchbox. And that is quantitative, proven, replicable science based on the size of an atom, the size of a molecule, and the size of a cell, and how many billions of cells we have in a body. How many billions of cells we have in a body. To me, Lise, that's some pretty fantastic talk. But what it does is it makes you stop and think, well, who are you now? If everybody in the country you live in fit in a matchbox, and you have expanded consciousness, you have compassion, you have love, you have hope, you have belief, and you have a system of caring about those people around you, and a sense of moral identity that you now are demanding worldwide because of fractal banking and the collapse of religion and the collapse of governments. And, I think it's pretty exciting to live in these times.
No, agreed. Absolutely. Wouldn't have missed it.
I came back. Hey, I took me 41 hours to get back.
I want to go back to that first experience. You have a personal life review. You see
Right.
everything you've done, all the choices that you made, and the intention behind those choices. Do you get a perspective of why you came? Do we have a particular purpose? And do you get
Yeah.
to see what objectives you achieved within that?
Yes. Everybody's purpose is to come to try to be a co-creator, to see themselves in a divine perspective. If God could not come today and God sent you in the life you just reviewed, what difference did God make?
But
Okay, so now think.
sorry, many people believe that when it comes to life path, that they get very specific. I'm meant to be with that person, do that particular job, live in that place. It's all meant to be. So that's part of my life path. Do
I
we
don't
actually?
believe
So you don't believe we design a life to such detail?
we design our lives to what we call probable possibilities because everything is determined at the choice. When you make a choice in your life, that's why I said if you see it from a second person point of view, when you make a choice, the simple choice about whether to get up at 8 o'clock in the morning or get up at 8:15, you have completely changed your world 100%. When you decide to turn left instead of turn right in the shopping cart aisle, when you decide to pick up peanut butter instead of bread, you have changed your life forever. You may come home and have the same routines and the dirty dishes in the sink and the children acting crazy, the husband's off shooting pool, drinking a couple of Fosters, but nonetheless, your life has been completely changed by those choices. So what determines that is to make choices and to try to make them from a compassionate point of view, buying a loaf of bread and looking to see every person that you come in contact with. I mean, I look at everybody, and my first thought used to be, how could I dominate them, or how could I make them be impressed with me? And now it's to look to see if I can help them. And now it's to look to see if I can be compassionate or help get something off the top shelf for someone, or smile at a little kid, or to help someone put their groceries in the car or open the door, and to see somebody that they had a bad day and say, hey, it'll be okay. Do you need to talk about it? Because now I sit down on a park bench and I'll listen. We all need to be heard. So when someone believes that I was chosen to be with that person because they're my soulmate, when you look at soulmates, in the heavens there are three categories. You have soulmates, quote unquote. You have twin flames, and then you have polar opposite. A soulmate will drive you crazy because they'll always call you on your junk. They'll always call you, and you'll always call them. Soulmates are trying to make each other perfectly divine gods. A twin flame is someone who comes into your life as a partner that wants to build something with you. They don't want to. The husband doesn't want to stay home and take care of the kids unless it grows what the empire or the business or the goal they set to achieve. And neither does the wife. It's partnerships, the twin flame. So you may get your soulmate, but you'll be on drugs but within the first 6 months of it. I can promise you that. I mean, I don't need a soul. Hey, I like twin flames because you get insight, you get perspective. You realize that you don't know near as much as you think you do. And then you get temperance, the way to make a decision by not rushing into it. So when people start talking that astrological life path, it's all probable possibilities. Nothing is carved in stone. I wrote this in Saved by the Light, which I didn't, at least I never thought it would become a worldwide classic. I just never thought it. Who in the world thought some hillbillies? But it sold millions and millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of books. And I'm proud of that. But if you look, you can see my conversations with the beings in heaven was there is nothing that's carved in stone. Our choices become brand new when you open your eyes. Yesterday is only a memory and tomorrow is only a dream. You just have right now. And each choice that you make per breath, watch when the life review, you breathe in, that's a choice. Because you're breathing in, how deep you plan to breathe in is a monumental choice. Because you breathe in for yourself to open up your body and to aerate and to oxygenate. And so when you breathe out, you're taking an action based on the depth of that breath. When you see your last life pass before you on the other side, you will see it per breath. And the world that you see when you're breathing in is 100% different from the world you're looking at when you breathe out. That was what was really a defining cosmic moment to me. It made me sit, fold my arms, and no matter what's happening around me, to appreciate it. Because somewhere in the probable possibilities of my life, this opportunity, although some of it has been pretty tough, this opportunity was mine. In open heart surgery, I refused to have the open heart surgery because they said I had roughly 3 hours to live before I would be dead because I got staph infection and it had eaten the aortic valve in my heart and I was drowning in my own blood. Well, I said, hell, I didn't cause that. So they said, well, you're going to have open heart surgery. And if that's successful, we'll wait 9 months because of the damage done to your lower left side of your heart, and then we will cut a piece of muscle out of your back. We will wrap it around your heart, put in a pacemaker, and you'll lose about 40% of the movement on your right side, but you'll still be alive. Well, I thought that was ridiculous. So I said, I'm not going to do that. That's nuts. I'd rather be in heaven because I've already been there once. And they couldn't understand it. And it was when Raymond Moody and Paul Perry realized that I didn't just talk about not being afraid of death. I could face it and make decisions where I was taking my own life. And I just thought it was funny. To be afraid of death is the stupidest thing for anybody on the earth to do.
Well, having us identify so strongly with physicality and with these bodies is the only way to get us to do much of what we do and play the game.
It's like being a diver. If you want to dive for pearls, you have to put on a wetsuit and a helmet, and you have to come in because do you realize that if your spine wasn't shaped just like that, because of the atmospheric pressure that's created in the atmosphere caused by the ionosphere based on the structure of the stratosphere, you could not walk.
It's all perfectly designed down to the minutest detail, isn't it?
You got it. That's the cool stuff to me. So that stuff's really cool to me because we have so much atmospheric pressure because look at underwater. It's still the pressure of the density of the water equal to the internal pressure produced by the body within that same amount of water. And where we are right now, we're in an atmosphere that's water. It's moisture, barometric pressure. That's where we live. And how your muscles work. Look at your thighs. Look how many muscles it takes to move, to go forward, and then if your body did not distribute the weight equal to where your spine was, you would be rigid and couldn't move. Now that's fun.
So how this? I don't know. I don't know how to phrase this because it's like so many questions in one. But
well, hit me with your very best shot, Lise.
Okay. So we're talking cycles. We mentioned cycles before. This period that we're in is the culmination of a very long cycle. Even if we just take the 26,000 year cycle,
25,920 to be exact.
To be exact. Then you bring the free will into it, and you bring the idea that every choice we make changes the path that we are on as individuals. How do we bring all that together to create a cohesive? It's on time. It's part of a cycle. That part of it's predetermined, and yet here we are with our free will and making us choices and manifesting and creating this as we go along. How do we bring those two thought processes together? Does that make sense?
First, we create an internet radio show produced by Lisa from Australia. What? We have to encourage, but you're doing your part. We have to encourage people that free will to make the right choices are our choices. You cannot come to serve the divine without being given the option of choosing no. Religion's grandest mistake is saying what you can do and what you can't do. Okay? And then condemning you for even some good stuff or condemning you for bad stuff, but taking away your free will. That's not how it works. How a spiritual being works is that it sees what to do that is right, it makes that choice, and it does it. Okay? And then free will either influences or creates the sense of rejection by others. But if it's done in the right intention, with the right focus, and loving compassion, it will inspire others to do the same. The world of greed, the world of taking and control and imperialization of the world, the ripping off of assets like us and oil in the Middle East, that is going to pass. It won't be a part of the new cycle. If you look at the Maya, we're moving from the galactic cycle into the universal cycle. And like now, we can watch any event happening on the earth in real time. Somebody can take their cell phone and watch a dog fight in China, and we can watch it on our cell phone while we ride to work. Or they can watch the christening of their grandchild 20,000 miles away and still be there. Look at you and I. The universal period is going to make criminality a thing of the past. Because once we all can watch it, when you look at YouTube, you have to be careful of who owns YouTube, which is Google, which has a tendency to be a part of, like in New Zealand and Australia, you have Echelon over there. But when you look at it, when you get 19 million hits on something, you have affected consciousness. When you look at what people go and look at, 20 million, 100 million, you have affected consciousness. And that's the universality about truth. And look at what the internet and universal consciousness does. You can't stop us.
That's what concerns me. When you look at YouTube and you look at what gets 20 million hits or even 100 million hits, it's something somewhat inane. It's usually appealing to the worst in us or the base in us, whereas information that you're sharing right here, right now, will get hits in the thousands. And
right.
that tells you a lot about where we're at and about where we're putting our energy and about what's being fed into the collective.
It only takes 3%. The scientific model says it only takes 3% to affect patterns of change in consciousness. I just want to be a part of that 3%. Yeah, at least my job is to reduce the fear of death. No one ever dies. And anyone who ever tells you that you will die, you can personally tell them that I said they are an idiot. And they're driving some kind of fear-based bull. For me, if it is not funny, it is not spiritual. If you're trying to tell me something about spirituality and you are not making me laugh when you tell it to me, then my relationship and knowledge of the divine, making my journeys over there, is the only conversation I would have to have with someone. How many times have you been there? when you come that condemnation stuff, equal to how many times I've been there. And if you listen to me, there is a playful, laughing, humorous being over here.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like I always say, well, what are they going to do? Kill me? Well, big deal. Who's afraid of that? That's old hat. You know, I just hope they're successful at it, because I haven't been successful at killing me, and I won't say I haven't tried very hard and very often.
So, if after you've had your personal life review, you were also shown 13 images of the future.
Me,
And those beings showed you these images of the future, yeah?
I didn't know it was the future when they showed it to me. I had never, there was no such thing, Lisa, of the near-death experience. No one ever wrote about it. It was not until 1975, which was after I had the near-death experience, that Raymond Moody published his landmark book, Life After Life. I had no way to relate to it. I had to sit and try to figure it out. I watched my family watch the changes in me. And I watched them rather me be that mean, hateful bastard as opposed to the person that I was becoming, because it was the event that changed me. And most people don't like change. But when I went to the Crystal Cities, there were 13 beings of light. And each one, and I call them the boxes of knowledge. Because what was so interesting about that experience was I was always appearing to be a part of everything that I was doing over there. But when I entered that box of knowledge, just like the Skype, just like what we're doing now, I could smell the smells. I could sense it. I was a part of it and happening, like Chernobyl and what was happening there, and all those things that were occurring. I was literally there. I never knew any of that was the future until Dr. Moody told me that two of the events had come true. The Chernobyl, the blowing up of the nuclear plant, that the Russians, the beginning of the collapse of the Soviet Union, these things began, Raymond began to see them, and all of a sudden I realized that what the future was showing me was probable possibilities. These beings were showing me probable possibilities. I think mostly, Lisa, so that I would stay on task to achieve their goals by 2014. And remember, it started in 1975. And it was 2014 was their date to accomplish certain things. That if anybody who looks at my life sees that even if you kill me, I still get up and I go right back at what I believe they want me to do. Why? I'll be over there a whole lot longer than I'll be over here.
So of those 13 images, have all of them come to pass?
No, we're missing probably about 20.
Out of 13?
I haven't seen out of 117.
Well, is this on top of the 13 that you were shown initially, or is this including those?
13 beings, the 13 were beings of light.
Oh, so it was 117 images altogether.
Yeah, visions.
Okay.
I haven't seen the massive earthquake. I haven't seen the massive earthquake in the center of the United States. That has not come. I've now seen the collapse of Egypt. That has come. I have not seen the battle for how we buy, sell, and trade, which means to go from gold. We went from gold and silver as our backing of our currency, now to fractal banking, and soon banking will become zeros and ones. It will be plastic. It will just be transferable. It won't be money to exchange. That's yet to come. Fukushima has come, the Japanese, the second major component of what nuclear damage would happen. Okay, but the advancements in science, the advancements in growing organs, and using constructional nanotechnology and energetic medicine, which was once called fringe and witchcraft and voodoo and curses and potions. The arrival of energy as the component, as the base component of who we are and how everything works. We will see this so dramatically. And I think that nanotechnology and stem cells are going to be revolutionary. The fact that one of my greatest fears was that everybody on the earth would be chipped. And if you go to Danyon.com, anyone can see I'm putting that information up. But I wrote this in 1976 when I could finally hold a pen. I couldn't write it very well. By 1977, I could write reasonably well, and I wrote this stuff down. But it was just the visions. But the other thing, and I think the most important thing, Lisa, is this. Science and spirituality are going to merge, just like you said about the yogi. It's going to merge. And the revolution in consciousness based on energetic medicine, how this operates, will change the identity. I always said the battle for the souls of human beings would be fought in healthcare. And we are now, our healthcare program is before the Supreme Court of the United States. So that would mean that what I said in 1977 is occurring today. And so I have read the bills and I've looked at it. I'll see what the issues are, and we will see. But remember this, we will make the right choices. All of us will make the right choices. And just like this show, it may get thousands of hits, but we just need 3%. That's all we need. And we need that with care and love and appreciate. And if it was just the people who listen today or watch today, it is the little things that you do each and every day that matters in the next life. And why you did it matters. If the divine could not come today and it sent you in the life you just reviewed, what difference did the divine make? For me personally, I became a hospice volunteer. Because of why? Because I am not afraid of death. And a person who's in transition can sense that about me. And second, I can help them. When they're closing out their life, there are certain things that all people think about. I'm writing a new book called 10 Things to Know Before You Go. Aspire to inspire before you expire. And I've taken the 10 basic things that I have watched from the 2005 people I have been with as they were passing from this world to the next, and 422 when they took their last breath. I would have to say that I'm a reasonable expert in this thing that we call death, but I really call transition. And I made it my life's work. I mean, because first, I'm not afraid, and we're also instilled with fear that we watch a family not be able to face and deal with it, and to hide from it, and to not be able to share the greatest and most wondrous moments of a life well lived of someone who is leaving this world and going to the next. I have to stop that. I have to make that person in transition appreciate the fact that they had this opportunity to be here. And I have to create an environment where a family comes to celebrate a life, not to be miserable and depressed about a death, because that person will not die. It does not happen.
I was with my father when he died, and I was
When he passed.
when he passed, when he transitioned, and he didn't have an opportunity to say anything. It was too sudden. It was a heart attack, and he was there 1 minute and gone the next.
The best way to do it.
He just looked at me and said, "Something's wrong."
I'm out of
And
here.
then he was gone. But my grandmother
Okay, well,
had.
let me,
Sorry?
but at least let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question. In 7 to 10 days before he had this heart attack, did you have a conversation with him that was like him putting his business in order?
Yes.
Everybody does that. If you're going to have a car wreck, and how he knew something wasn't right, someone had come to him. Most people know, and I know this from being with 2,005 people. It might be 1% that doesn't know it, but they find such comfort in me, Lise. They say, hey, I already seen my mom's come, my dad's come. Louis, who I lost in battle and drug him for 2 days during World War II, he's come. I know it's my time. Okay, so let me go back to what you were talking about your dad.
I never thought of it until you said it. Until you said, did we have a conversation? And we did. He, in fact, was on his knees with his head in my lap in tears, telling me things that I would love to have heard from him all my life, but um, that only happened a week or so before he died. And I've never
Within
made that
10
connection.
days. Well, that's why you have me on this show.
Apparently so.
I lived there, Lise. I lived there, and I know the mechanisms. You know, when you have this experience 3 times over 22 years, from from 25 years old to 47 years old, you grow a lot. I mean, I have matured living in both of those worlds. That world over there does not trouble me because I can travel there literally at will. I have to prepare myself. I have to make sure I have enough magnesium and potassium and trace minerals. I must have my electrolytes at a certain frequency because I will burn enormous amounts of electrolytes. It's like a spaceship taking off. I will burn enormous amounts of electrolytes. And I can cross that veil. I can use conscious intention to cross that veil. So over there is not an odd place. It's not some place I've only gone 3 times. I've been there more than 20 times. I know the rules. I know how you leave this world. And he needed his baby girl to understand that he'd probably been a jerk most of his life, and he needed to be able to find closure and resolution because he knew it was going to come quick. And that's what you went through. When people have a car wreck, I have people who tell me, my child committed suicide. And I said, well, tell me the last conversation you had. And they did just what you're doing now. You are feeling the presence of your father now. Mm. He is surrounding you. You have less tension in your shoulders right here. You went from tension where you were tense. Now your shoulders right here are lessening. And that's like him massaging. Now that you've created the point of recognition, you've created a vibratory harmonic that allows him to return. I can see him. I can see him.
I used to view that conversation in a completely different light. I almost resented it. And yet, because it was like, why wait till then, till just before you leave to say those things? But now I can appreciate it.
You didn't know he was leaving.
No.
I walk in hospitals and see hospital wards filled with people walking up and down the halls. Okay, they might have been past 50 years, but that doesn't affect me. I can come into a room and there's 12 people talking at the same time, and none of them's been on the earth for 20 years, but they were friends of the person, just like your dad.
So is this something that you came out of that first experience with the ability to do and it stayed with you, or has this developed over time?
Well, yes and no. Remember, one day I never believed any of this. This was the biggest bunch of crap I had ever heard. And if you would have even brought it up to me, I would not have allowed you to finish the sentence. I would have probably popped you right in the teeth. And then the next day I was dead. And then the day after that, I became everything I never believed. I can hear people's thoughts. I can listen to the tone in a person's voice. And then I can listen to them conjugate a verb. And the tense and the presence that they put that verb conjugation in allows me access to them. Now, when you come back from over there and you realize that you're a great, powerful, and mighty spiritual being and you have dignity, direction, and purpose, that means that's all of us. There is nothing unique about me except that I can survive. And it's because my will to achieve goals and to believe that the divine believes and trusts me from a first-person perspective. But it means that the divine believes in everyone from a first-person perspective. And then people say, well, why is there evil in the world? Because free will allows us to make stupid choices. And in that stupid choices, we do two things. We either seek gratification or we seek preservation. The two mental, physical, distinctive characteristics that we as spiritual beings have to always be conscious of. I watch it. And then because when I walked in a room and someone was passing, I didn't have time to read their history, and so I began to listen, set an intention, and hum, and just hum, and I will find that tone. And then I know things about people because my job is to help them safely without fear go from this world to the next. And then I watched it become 7,000 miles away. Here I am talking to you, and your daddy's there, and he's looking at his life again because he has me. You know, I'm a great vehicle because at first it doesn't upset me. Second, I'm not Nostradamus. You know, I don't see myself as the great Swami. I don't buy into all that stuff. I can do all those things, but I just don't buy into it. These are innate capabilities that we all have. You know, I teach the Twilight Brigade, and if a person takes my Twilight Brigade training, which is about how to be a hospice volunteer, I have various stages of it. I can make you an empath, to read minds. That is a very, very uncomplicated procedure. It's about setting values. It's knowing what has to be in your system. Like I say, I burn up an enormous amount of electrolytes. That's why I'm such a magnesium, potassium, trace mineral junkie. Okay? And once you put into your body the right stuff that the thalamus and the pituitary gland in concert with the pineal gland, you can train yourself to do anything. You can do anything.
No, I believe that. I believe it's all there. So where are we going? What are we doing?
To the top.
What's
If you had listen, if you had 3% of the population that was me, that was just like me, playful, loving, compassionate, caring, and dedicating, serving, and believing in the spiritual divinity of ourselves, and if the divine couldn't come today, and the divine sent me, I know that they trust me. And they trust each and every one of us. So we step up to the plate. Now, if there were 3% of the population was us, who do you think would win?
I think
us.
And I think that's a foregone conclusion. I think we will, and we are, and that by this time next year we won't even recognise the place. However,
there's no question.
Yeah, go on.
Yeah, we won't, because more fear will have to be instilled to keep us from being aware of what we should be doing. People cannot be afraid. All they can do is kill you. Well, big deal. All you have to do is make sure of the reason why you put yourself in harm's way, because that's all that really matters. You know why people worry so much about death? It's not about death. It's not about heaven, hell, or the unknown. It's about the pain that's associated with it based on torture, medical procedures, the ability to chemically keep a body awake and alive longer than it's supposed to, because we're all supposed to live longer. If you look in the Bible said that man was granted 100 plus 20. So the average, what the Bible says is you were supposed to live 120 years. And people bought into that. Okay? Well, I want to stay here as long as it's fun. And I can promise you, everything's fun to me. Ah! Okay? So I want to stay here. People say, Daniel, what motivates you and what do you think the meaning of life is? Well, life is details and entertainment. He said, well, how do you measure people around you? I said, I measure people around me by how entertaining they are. That's how I measure my friendships, and I'm liking you, Lisa.
Well, thank you very much. I find your sense of fun and play and humor is amazing. I love it. You're a
The
lot of fun
mind
to
reading,
be with.
the mind reading is not so bad either, and the talking to the departed is a pretty interesting lunch, is a pretty interesting dinner conversation, huh?
It's a nice party trick, yeah. So what do you what I mean apart from getting people to completely relinquish the fear around death. And you're right, it's not even, well, at least for me, it's not about going, it's about the circumstances under which everyone wants to go quietly in their sleep because that sounds nice and peaceful and you won't know it's happening, so there'll be no anxiety. And really, it's because we've become so identified with this that we
It's a
have
bag of
fear.
water.
Yeah, but we have fear around the other bag, fear for the other bags of water in our life, and what may happen to them once we go and what have you. It's
Okay, but you got to change that. You got to change that. You have to appreciate, not fear. You appreciate those choices. People worry about their children. People worry about their parents. Okay? Well, those are great, powerful, and mighty spiritual beings with dignity, direction, and purpose. And I was on a radio show the other day, and this woman lit into me about, because I said it was a choice that people made. And she said, well, what about the children? What about the horror of what you see that's happening to children and how unfair it is? And you're always talking, you're such an anti-devil person. Why in the world do you think that's happening? I said, well, let me ask you something. Did the events that you're talking about and what you see are happening to those children teach you compassion and teach you to be more caring and bring you to a point where you're in here ranting and raving at me instead of focusing on doing something about it? So which would you rather do? Condemn me for being my way, or try to convince me with the platform that I have worldwide to help you do something to protect those children? So we are all observers, learners, and doers. And where's she going to go? I said, that child taught you compassion, caring, loving, and presence. And she must have done a really good job because you're yelling at me.
well, so it's like how can I put this? The more unconscious or asleep we are, the greater the wake-up call is going to need to be. Is that what you're saying? So we see the horrible things that are happening in the Middle East. We see,
And then Africa.
and in some places in South
40,000
America.
people a month are being killed in Africa. Murdered, have their arms cut off, rape. Give me a break.
And we're going to
Give me a
continue seeing
break.
it until that empathy and compassion and motivation to act is triggered in enough people.
About 2 years.
About 2 years?
Yeah, about 2 more years.
Oh, I hope not. I
We have
hope not.
about 2 more years of this. Well, we do.
You talked about the financial system before, and it's been teetering for so long now. It doesn't feel like it can hold on for much longer. Do you have
It is.
it will collapse?
It has.
But when do you see that domino effect kind of hitting people in such a way as it's on the mainstream news? You know, the Federal Reserve is gone, the fiat currency system is gone. When do you see that becoming a conscious reality?
EU's gone. The Chinese are in desperate trouble. If they don't stay at 8% growth, they will have an internal revolution. Okay? The new system is coming. We're right there. We're there. It's days. You will
Days.
see a mass, yes, it's days. You will see a mass arrest. All they're trying to do is hold this out, Lisa, until after a presidential election so America can reproduce itself. America will become the United States of North America next summer. Next summer. It will be the United States of North America. It'll be Canada as the fuel supply. It will be the United States as the intellectual property supply. And it will be the country of Mexico as the manufacturing supply, so that we create the United States of North America as a power in the course of reestablishing a trans-American economic system. EU was never meant to survive.
No.
It was never meant to survive. Anyone who looks at the historical structure of the EU, it was never meant to survive. The Pan-Pacific position, of which Australia will be a part of, it is probably going to be one of the largest growth areas in the world. It's a relationship between Australia, New Zealand, the Marshalls, all the way into China. Japan is finished. It's over. 1/3 of the island will be uninhabitable. The amount of radiation that will be consumed in Japan will destroy it as the world power. Then it will be America and China. The biggest issues that America or the world has to pay attention to is the relationship between India and China as competition for global world growth. Why we're in Afghanistan as of the NATO, because it has no rationale for existence, is if we keep Afghanistan in a position, we sit on the border of Pakistan, Pakistan is held at bay so that India can become a world power. The difference between China and India is all Indians speak English. And that's what scares the Chinese as a manufacturing world power. The biggest crisis we all face is water. Water. Everybody should pay attention to their water supply, and everybody should have a month's worth of water first. Second, because of solar activity, or what's called solar plasmic reaction, they could use a massive solar flare to cut off all the electricity. So that everything and everybody listening should stop for a moment and figure out what you would do if you had no electricity for a month. And if you do that, instead of freaking out, you have some beanie weenies and some sardines, a little hardtack, some drinking water for tea, a couple cases of Foster's just in case. And you just lay back and watch.
Australians don't drink Foster's, by the way. We just
Well,
export it for the rest of the world to drink.
Well, whatever you guys drink.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. We need to have those kind of...
You just need to put it into your thought pattern.
Yeah.
It's not something that can happen, but it's a possibility. Because if you collapse the world to create a new banking system, Lisa, if you collapse the world to create a new banking system, then what you also have to have is you have to have a multiple worldwide crisis that you can blame on something other than the government to keep people cohesively together. You got to have to blame it. Look at the world. Look at the world's environmental issues. Look at the tree-hugging world of excellence. Do you realize that the United Nations has finally figured out what the problem with the environment is? It's you.
Mm.
They finally found something that it's all our fault because we all pass gas.
And the cows.
Yeah, but you can't blame the cows because we eat them. Well, I have sincerely enjoyed these moments with you.
And with you. It's been lovely. And very informative. And very touching, in fact.
Thank you. I tried to be as cool about telling you that information as I could. I know probably 500 times more information than I said, but I'm also very protective of a person.
No, I appreciate
You
that.
know? Yeah. So be blessed and be loved. May your audience, this is what I ask of your audience, to please tell at least 3 friends to participate in the Lisa Show and to take part in this program and to please become a part of the 3%.
Become part of the solution.
Yes, either part of the problem or part of the solution.
That's it.
It just takes 3%.
Is there anything else you want to leave people with?
That I love them very, very much. And if I could get my hands on them right now, I would give them the biggest kiss they ever had. I would squeeze them like I was never going to see them again. And I would hold love and glory and wonderment until they forced me to let them go.
You you probably just scared them all away. No, you didn't.
Oh, no, not when you get one of my hugs, Lise.
Thank you, Daniel.
And be blessed.
You too.
Bye, everybody.
Bye bye.